Today we're going to replace the Prostar airbag strut system with a ProRide system. We have to do this because the one airbag is punctured, and to get the airbag and the strut, it's about $400, and the ProRide system for both sides is $769, and replacement parts are much cheaper. So we're going to do that way. First thing we have to do is we got to prop the cab up so we can remove the old airbag system, and for this we're going to have to jack the cab. We can't air it up because we have a punctured airbag. So we're going to put a cross member in and a hydraulic jack, and we'll be right back to you. What we did is we put a steel cross member in, just a piece of channel iron across the frame, and a scissor jack, actually, not a hydraulic jack, and a 2x4 so we can distribute the weight on the underside of the cab. Cab weighs a couple of thousand pounds or so it's going to be a feat to get it up there. Once we get up in the air, we're going to support it with two 4x4s, 48-inch each 4x4s on either side of the cab. Alright, we now have the cab up in the air. It's supported by these 4x4s from the ground up to the underside of the frame of the cab, not just to the floor of the cab, but there's actually a frame under there. It's done like that on both sides. That'll hold it up out of the way. We can start disconnecting things. First, we got to remove the 4 bolts, the upper bolts for the strut, 18mm bolts. The 2 inside ones will be getting with the regular ratchet wrench. I can't get a gun in there, and my small ratchet is broken. My air ratchet's broken, so we're gonna have to do it the hard way today. But the outer ones we can get with the air gun. Once you get those removed, they're pretty much loose on the top. You just have the 4 to remove from the bottom. Okay, we removed the bolts from the top portion of it, and this just slides down, moves. We have to remove the bottom bolts for the whole bracket. There's 4 of them against the frame here, 1, 2, and 2 in the back. I have a travel limiting strap that's attached to it too, which will come off with the rest of the bracket. We don't need that either. That's going to be gone. Removing the last of the bolts for the bracket for the shock and airbag combination. One more bolt to go, and the whole thing is out.
Just push down, right?
Manipulate the bag a little bit. Compress it a bit off the bolts that are on the top of the underside of the cab, which stay in place to be reused again. And then the bag is out. So far, we removed the 2 strut airbags and travel limit straps that they put on there. I'm not sure why they need them, but they're there. Remove that, and total time so far, including all setup, is probably about 40 minutes. Definitely under an hour. We haven't been watching the clock, but it's really quick procedure. It comes apart easy and goes together just as easy. All right, we'll go to some more video. All right, this is the new setup, the new air ride kit. This is what comes in the box. Got the 2 airbags, 2 frame mounts, cab mounts, shocks, stabilizer bar to keep the cab from going left to right, bag of bolts. Some instructions down there somewhere. This is the 3rd one that we've done. We pretty much got the hang of it by now. All right, we'll get back to some installation now. All right, we're ready to start the installation. What we did is we disassembled the whole thing that came assembled in the box. It's much easier to assemble it in pieces on the truck than to try and put it together all assembled. That was what we found the first time. Didn't appear to be any real instructions that I could follow. But then again, I look at pictures, so the reading thing is kind of out of my element. Anyway, we take the 2 smaller pieces that go up against the cab. They go on top, and they become sandwiched in between the whole main frame of this and the cab itself. So these actually go up on the 4 cab bolts that are already in place, pretty much like that. Then we put the main frame under it and reuse the old bolts that came off of there, the 18mm bolts that came off. All right, we'll go ahead and get that done. Okay, we have it pretty much just stuck up into place right now. We tightened up 2 of the outside bolts in there. We're going to tighten up the 2 outside bolts on the other side as well. This goes in a lot easier than what you think. It's really, really simple. We're dealing with our APU lines. The APU lines for the tri-pack are over there. So we had to snake around that. And it goes in really, really well. It does a fine job. We got to tighten the inner bolts up by hand again because my air ratchet decided to not work. All right, we're now ready to install the frame side of the brackets on this. And the one with the stabilizer arm goes on the driver's side. We left the stabilizer arm in place, and which is something we haven't done before. We've disassembled it before. We're going to leave the stabilizer arm there. I don't think it's going to make a difference in the installation. In the kit, they give you 8 new nuts and bolts for use, and I guess you could reuse the ones you took out, but I would just as soon use the brand new ones. All right, we'll get done with this. On the passenger side, you got to tighten the 2 bolts there to the rear before you go ahead and put the air leveling valve bracket back on and tighten up the forward ones. Otherwise, you can't get in there. You need the clearance to get in there with the bracket off. Okay, we have the bottom bracket in on the passenger side, and if you notice, we never even had to take the linkage off of the air leveling valve. We never had to touch that. We kind of just tucked it out of the way and it all went back together. Then we're going to try and get the arm and see where the arm goes on this and what kind of trouble we may have with this. All right, we're into a small snag. Apparently in the bushings of the stabilizer bar, the metal bushing itself inside the rubber was actually too wide for the bracket. We couldn't get it in there no matter what we did. So we actually removed about a 1/16 of an inch of material off the metal bushing, and it slid right up in place where it needed to be. It tightened up really well also. Second issue we're coming up with is we seem to have an alignment problem. We're hoping that by putting these bolts in here, we'll be able to pull the cab over the 1/2 inch we need to line it up right. We have everything, all the slide hoses, the whole thing is adjusted over to the passenger side of the vehicle to keep it over as far as we can, and we're still running just about a 1/2 inch too short. And we're thinking that the cab is not perfectly straight aligned in there. We figured that out by checking it at the door frames. We have a little more space between the one door frame and the other. We seem to have a little bit more space on this side than we do on the other side. I'm sorry, it's backwards. We have more space on this side than the other side, and we're hoping by pulling it over, it's going to limit that space and align the cab where it needs to be. And we're going to go ahead and tighten up on those and do some measurements, and I think we're going to be okay. Okay, it appears that we sucked it in and shifted the cab over about a 1/2 inch. So as I said, it slid over to where it needed to be. We're going to go check our spacing in the cab now. Seems like this side may have opened up a little bit. And this side seems to have closed up a little bit. We're going to get a tape measure on it and measure our distances and make sure it's all square and everything. I don't think we have a problem at this point. I think we did pretty good. Okay, this is pretty much ready for the airbags and the shocks. Doesn't look like much space to put an airbag, but we just collapse them up pretty good and they'll go in there. All the way across to that side there. We have no movement in the cab anymore. The cab won't rock at all right now. It's pretty solid with that stabilizer bar in there. Seems like a few adjustments could be made on this, which we can't do right now. But the cab squared up for us. We got everything right where it needs to be. We may have a difference in shock angles from left side to right side, but I don't think that's going to be an issue. Well, we'll see once we get the shocks in. Okay, we aired up the airbags, took our wood out, our wood supports out, mounted the shocks and lowered it back down to its ride height where it should be, and everything seems to be staying up nice and straight. It's exactly where it needs to be. The cab is centered really, really well. This is a really, really good system. We have 3 of these on our 3 Prostars now, and we like them. The guys say they ride actually better than the OEM stuff. Okay, I hope this video helped somebody, or at least you enjoyed watching it. We do like the system, and the people over at Big Truck Parts are great to deal with. Okay, thanks for watching.